Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Connection Week 183. Great to be here with all of you. I am exhausted. I don't know about anybody else, but it has been a very, very long week. We just finished Purim yesterday. Like today is my recovery day. I don't have to recover from being drunk. I did not drink yesterday, but have been working really hard for like the whole weekend. I'm sure you've all been very busy as well. Going into, having a 3-day Purim is definitely an experience. And there's definitely a lot, very busy day, very busy Shabbos, very busy really since Thursday. It's been like nonstop because I actually tried to get as much done as I could on Thursday for Shabbos so that I could actually go out. It was the first time ever that I went out of Jerusalem on Friday and went to visit a friend at her Purim Suda. Had such a nice time, and then going into Shabbos and then Sunday and just having a full day of people in and out and a full Suda, and thank God, it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. So nice to see everyone being besimcha, just like it's such a powerful thing. And I think that, we're going to talk about stress today. I think one of the biggest things about managing stress, just as like to acknowledge like the difference it makes as we're busy and tired and dealing with a lot of it's going to be on our perspective, right? What's like our experience of the stress is going to be built on what how we're looking at it, our perspective of it. Now that doesn't negate, sometimes we hear these ideas and, that can start to feel like if we're stressed out that we should feel guilty, we feel bad, we're just making ourselves stressed. I don't believe that. I don't think that's the way it works. I think that there are definitely things that are going to feel more difficult and more stressful and more draining because of the reality of the situation that it is. So it's not like, oh, because of this idea, we'll never feel drained, we'll never feel overwhelmed, we'll never feel stressed, we'll never feel sad, we'll never feel all the things that might come up sometimes. And it is at the same time true that it's because, or the way that we're dealing with it, the perspective we're taking on it, what it means to us is going to make a difference in how we experience it, right? If the entire time you're dealing with Purim or anything else that comes up, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is so much work. I hate this holiday. Why is everyone coming here? Why is no one helping me? If what, this is so annoying. I can't believe my husband's getting drunk. I can't believe there's so many people outside making so much noise. If that's the perspective, it's going to be a very different experience than if it's like we were talking about last week. Okay, this is something that is his mitzvah today, or this is the holiday, and I'm excited to share it with everyone. And yes, it's a lot of work. And okay, I'm happy to be what's the word, a facilitator for all of this. Now, again, we want to be careful because sometimes, I think it's very hurtful or very not helpful when I remember once reading, and I'm not going to say any names, but I remember once reading an article that a rabbi wrote where he was basically criticizing women for feeling stressed over the holidays or feeling tired over the holidays, and basically saying you should be happy that your family's coming and so you shouldn't be stressed. And I thought that that was so diminishing to women's experiences. Like, we can be happy that our family is coming and it can still be a difficult experience. And that's where I want to take a third alternative, or rather than saying, well, no, you're not allowed to be stressed, you're not allowed to be tired, you're not allowed to be unhappy, or saying, oh, like this is so annoying, this is horrible, so I'm not going to have family, or feeling guilty, right? If you put them together, like, oh, if I'm tired or stressed out or it's hard for me to have everyone, it means I don't really appreciate my family, I don't appreciate the holidays. No, why don't we take all of that out and we use a different energy, which is, yes, having everyone over is hard. Or yes, making a holiday is hard. Yes, getting ready for Pesach is hard. And we're allowed to feel that because it's the reality. It's stressful. It's a lot on our shoulders. It's a lot on our heads. I have a lot of laundry to get through, like to fold and put away now that I did it all because of, a fast day, and then and then getting ready for Shabbos and then Purim, and everything on top of that, just regular everyday stuff. There's laundry and cooking and cleaning and a lot of people to manage and a lot of people in our space and all the stuff that's going to come up as we now go into the next busy season of the year, which is probably in some ways the busiest. And we can go into that and say, yes, this is difficult. And if we go into it also with a feeling of, like a simcha, like, yes, it's hard and not but, or okay, except like, yeah, it's difficult, it's a lot, and I'm excited for the holiday. I'm excited to be with my family. I get to celebrate. I get to get ready. I don't know, I don't know about everybody else. My house is so ready for Pesach cleaning. Like we so need this. I'm so excited for it. I know it's going to be a lot, but I'm just like, yay, we need like you know, a, a, a some time just dedicated to like I know even though Pesach cleaning they say is not organizing, I don't know if it's because it's a smaller space that we're in, but there is definitely chametz and all of the things that need to be organized. So I totally I remember especially when my kids were little, if I would try to like apply that, oh, Pesach cleaning is not spring cleaning, and going into my bathroom and being like, do I really need to clean out the drawer that has like my makeup in it? Do I really need to clean out the drawer where I keep my feminine products, right? And then like being like, well, let me just do it, and like opening up the drawer and taking everything out, and there was like cornflakes in the drawer, which are literally chametz because they're made with barley, right, malt in them. So it's like, yeah, there was chametz everywhere. I'm sure there still is, even with older kids. So yes, we do need to, there is a deep cleaning that is very powerful to do, and be excited to do it. And again, with the reality that it's hard and with the reality that I'm excited to do it, putting those two together, then we can ask ourselves, okay, so what's going to help me? What's going to energize me? What's going to allow me to keep a more upbeat perspective? How am I going to manage the stress? How am I going to keep myself energized physically, emotionally, spiritually? All of these things, right? So that we don't negate the reality of the situation. We don't negate our feelings. And we also don't get like we don't forget that it's hard, but we also don't just like make ourselves I'm trying to make sure I'm saying this properly because like I said, I'm tired. We don't pretend that it's not hard. We don't whitewash the struggles, but we also don't get lost in the struggles. We also get to stay excited. We also get to look forward to the holidays, even though there's a lot that is needed of us, right? No matter what we're doing for the holidays, right? We had a family that actually came. They didn't stay by us, but they spent a lot of the time with us, and thank God we had friends that housed them. But we had a family that came to us for this 3-day Purim, and she was saying, like she was thanking for having us. I was like, I'm happy to have you and I'm so happy you're here. But also like, for me, it was like, you're the guest that we had. Like I don't feel extra, I didn't feel extra stressed. Like I wanted to help her feel better about it. But like also it's so much for you. You had to pack for 3 days. And it's one of the families that we spend Rosh Hashanah with every year, and saying like, you cook for us every year for Rosh Hashanah, you have us for a meal, and then we're reflecting on how also that's a lot of work that goes into it for us to go over there, right? Whether you're hosting or whether you're um, going away, there's a lot that goes into it. There's packing, there's cooking, there's cleaning if you're staying, there's cleaning if you're not staying, there's being a guest in someone else's house can have its own stress. You're not in your own bed, your children aren't in their own beds. You're trying to like be helpful but not in the way. And if you're at home, you can be comfortable and on your own time, but then maybe you have more people over. And if you don't have people over, maybe then you feel more stressed to keep everyone happy who is at home. Whatever the situation is, and this is part of managing our stress, is also acknowledging like wherever we're at is where we're at. And let's deal with what we're dealing with. Let's deal with our stress while also staying in a reality of like of simcha, right? Of keeping the simcha going from Purim to Pesach with an excitement, right? So again, going back to the last few days, as we're celebrating, excuse me, as we're celebrating and as we're doing all the behind the scenes, right? And there's a lot that goes into Purim. Getting everyone's costumes, everyone's mishloach manot, the Suda, and Shabbos at the same time. In Yerushalayim, we actually have a lot of Friday Purims. very often. I know we're not gonna have a 3-day Purim, which means if you're outside of Jerusalem, don't worry, you won't have an Erev Shabbos Purim for like 20 years. And it's funny how we kept saying that over the last few, which means we also won't have an Erev Shabbos Pesach for Erev Shabbos, Erev Pesach on Shabbos. That's what I mean to say for 20 years. But we've had a lot of Friday Purims, a lot. That's like I'm so used to that. And I know a lot goes into it, a lot. You have to have so much ready by like Friday morning, right? You don't even have all Friday to cook for Shabbos. And you also have to make the Suda and have the Mishloach Manot ready and any costumes and go to Megillah and it's so much. It's so much. So it's a lot of work. We have to acknowledge how much we do. And at the same time, you know, the perspective that we have going into it and what we're telling ourselves and what thoughts are going on in our mind is going to make a huge difference, right? Because when we're standing there doing whatever we're doing, or when we're sitting down, resting from whatever we're doing, the thoughts that are going on in our mind are going to determine so much of everything, how we respond to others, right? So here and just going into the topic of for today, which I have to remember that there was a specific thing we were supposed to talk about with stress, is that, stress really does affect everything. So going like taking that from what we were just talking about, let's segue to it what we're thinking about, the thoughts that we're having around the stress. If it's like, oh, I can't believe I have to do all this, right? Like we were even saying before, I can't believe I do this. Why is he drunk? Why is it so noisy? Why is it so busy? I can't believe I have to do this. It's not fair. If we're going on and we're kind of fetching in our mind and looking at it negatively, which is understandable. There's a lot. I'm not negating the fact that it's hard. It's how we're looking at what we're dealing with that's going to determine how we're going to speak to other people, how we're going to act, how much energy we're going to have, even how we deal with other things that can seem completely disassociated from what we're thinking about. So you might be thinking about, I can't believe how even today you might be reflecting on how hard it was to deal with everything while your husband was drunk, right? Or you might be thinking about how much laundry you have to fold or you might be thinking about everything that needs to get done before Pesach. And as you're thinking about all of those things and they're on your minds, whether consciously or subconsciously, your kid comes over and asks you for money for something or to be picked up or to be driven somewhere, or your husband asks you like what should we eat for dinner, or somebody calls you for a donation, or anything that happens, right? All of a sudden you're something breaks, right? Or you stub your toe, right? Anything that I hope none of you stub your toe. I hope none of right, only good things. But as those things happen, the thoughts that you're having already are going to affect how you respond to that. And sometimes we might find ourselves in a bad mood and we don't know why. We might find ourselves people being like, what did I just like? Why are you so upset? And you're like, I'm not upset. But underneath, if you're feeling stressed about things, is going to make a difference in how you respond to others. There's no way of getting away from stress. It's one of the reasons that absolutely in my Absolutely Feminine program, the right now that what now I'm calling the Ready for Connection program, in there I have a whole module on dealing with stress even before the communication module. Why? Because knowing how to deal with stress is a huge factor in the level of connection that we have with our husbands, our children, anyone around us, right? Because stress has such an effect on how we're being, what we're saying, how we're responding to things, even like the choices that we make are all going to be affected by our stress. We know that I shouldn't say we know that. One of the things that I talk a lot with my clients about is how stress is almost always rooted in fear. And fear, if we're acting on our fear, we end up very often creating exactly what we're afraid of. So when we're in stress, right? We're going to be actually creating our fears, creating the things that we don't want, creating the environments that we don't want to have, making like creating the experiences that we're trying to stay away from. And so knowing how to manage that stress becomes paramount. It becomes so important, especially when we're really looking to create a certain experience in our lives, whether in our everyday lives or because, we're going into a time period which is all about, Pesach is really the holiday of like it's education, it's creating a home that's focused on like a mini mikdash that teaches the people inside the home about Hashem and then radiates it out. There's all these beautiful Torahs about what Pesach is about, because Pesach is when we all sit as a family around, at our seder. It's when we talk about korban, korban Pesach. I don't necessarily have to go into this too much, but the whole idea of in Egypt, what we were doing was identifying ourselves as the Jewish people, the ones who were going to leave Egypt and go to serve God and go to be God's nation. And so every Pesach, that's why we have this mitzvah of Vigadet Levincha, teaching our children, because it's the night and the week and the experience where we inaugurate our home as a home that teaches our children and creates a family that together brings Hashem into the world. It's such a beautiful idea. And yet at the same time, I know I had many years where going into Pesach was not a beautiful experience teaching my children about bringing God into the home. It was stressful and yelling and, oh my gosh, don't touch that. And what are you doing? And don't put that on the floor. And what about don't eat that in here. And did you wash your hands? And all the stress that, I had to acknowledge was like negating the point, right? Not that we have to not care about the chametz, because we do have to, but how are we dealing with it, right? So that, are we creating an experience where our children look forward to Pesach, or are we creating an experience where our children dread it, right? At what kind of experience are we creating for our families? And that's why dealing with our stress is so, so important. And the first thing is really acknowledging, which is what I wanted to talk about today, is really acknowledging that stress does have an effect on us. It has an effect on how we're going to deal with things. It has an effect on how we're going to um, react. And so, yes, realizing that when we're having a difficult day, when we feel just so tired or so moody, or we find ourselves being so reactive, it's usually because we're stressed about something. Something is stressing us out. There's something we're afraid of. There's something that we're getting anxious about. There's something that we're going into a bit of like that spin, that fearful anxiety spin, right? That is consuming us, right? Sometimes it's a feeling of resentment. Sometimes it's a feeling of fear. Sometimes it's a feeling of anxiety. Sometimes it's a feeling of something lacking. So the first thing is definitely going to be to acknowledge, wait, what is it I'm stressed about right now? So that then, and that goes back to what we were saying about, dealing with, that's when we were dealing with when we're to look at our perspective, right? Okay, a certain thing is bothering me. Let me look at it so I can deal with it, right? I feel like we talk about that a lot here. It's so important. Let me acknowledge the issue so that I can deal with it, right? Rather than, oh, this is the issue, or let me just pretend that issue doesn't exist, neither of which is going to take us out of the stress cycle, neither of which is going to take us out of our fear, because it's still there, whether we ignore it or not. And if we just harp on it, it's only going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. But rather acknowledging, okay, there's something that's causing me stress, or something that is taking me away from being the woman that I want to be, creating the experience I want to experience. Let me acknowledge it so that then I can deal with it. So that then I can figure out how to not have it get in the way that it is now. And yes, that may sometimes take some inner work, or it may take some taking time for ourselves. It may take seeking advice, seeking support on how to deal with it. All of that may be true. And it's only if we acknowledge it that we can then deal with it so that we can create what we want to create. So going back to, I like to give a concrete example. if let's say you're feeling stressed because of all the laundry you have to do, or you're feeling stressed because of the way people are acting on Purim, to acknowledge, wait, okay, I'm feeling stressed about this laundry. It's causing me to feel exhausted, or it's causing me to lash out at my kids, or it's causing me to worry and get like think 10 steps ahead to like how am I going to get everything done for Pesach? Okay, let me deal with the issue that's at hand. So, am I going to do the laundry? Am I going to ask someone to fold it for me? Am I going to get a bunch of people in on this? Am I going to choose a time to do it? Am I going to choose something to have on in the background I'm listening to or watching while I do it? Am I going to do it in pieces and know that it's going to get done? Am I going to do it as a marathon and probably get it done faster than I think I will? Let me choose. And if my brain is going ahead to, oh my gosh, how am I going to get everything done for Pesach? I'm going to get it done step by step and figure out a plan that will work for you. That's another important piece, but also acknowledging the issue at hand. And if the issue is a perspective thing, like, I can't believe my husband was so drunk, I can't believe what he said, I can't believe what he did. Okay, then looking at, okay, what am I making it mean that he was drunk? Is there something specific that's bothering me? Is there something that I need to work through in my, realizing a fear that I have, or realizing a belief that I have around it? Is there something that he said that hurt me that I want to acknowledge and share with him, so that he can apologize, or he can at least know? Is there something that I needed help with? And now I can acknowledge for myself that in the future how to communicate what I need help with, right? So it's all about looking to see, like, practically, what can I do to take myself, and just as a side note, like, practically what can I do is never going to be yelling at someone, right? It's never going to be losing it at someone. It's never going to be just hinders self-expression that doesn't necessarily help anything. It probably would just cause a fight. But what we can do is figure out what's really bothering me, what's going on, what is it that I'm feeling, what is it that I want, what is it that I want to communicate. And often, this is where having some support from somebody who can really help you work through those ideas is so helpful. So, I hope that this was, helped everyone put things into perspective on stress. I do want to share with you that I have something exciting coming up. I know how difficult and stressful the following weeks are. And I know for myself that there are so many tools and skills that have made such a difference for me that I've learned over the years, and that I've helped my clients with over the years, that have made such a difference between the way we all used to go into Pesach and the way that we go into Pesach now. So there's something really exciting coming up that I'm going to be inviting you all to join me in, as something easy to do to help keep you in a calm and connected headspace moving into Pesach and beyond. So you definitely want to check out a tab on your email. I'm going to be sending this opportunity to you in the next few days. It's basically a pocket coaching opportunity to have some of these tools and skills and mindset shifts and different hacks and ideas that you can use. I'm not going to teach you how to clean your house. I'm not going to teach you how to organize. That is not my thing, but I will teach you, I will share with you, as we're dealing with all of that, how we can keep our mindset and our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our husband, our children, our relationship with Hashem, because let's remember we're going into a spiritual time and there's so many spiritual ideas, but how we can keep calm and connected at, in all of these areas of our lives as we go into this busy and also very spiritual time of the year. So I'm excited to share that with you. Definitely as I said, keep an eye on your email, and I'll be sharing it with you in the next few days. And I look forward to connecting with all of you. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you for helping me feel a little bit more energized on this very, very I'm not gonna say restful. I'm trying. What's the word? Like renewing, refreshing day. Trying to get uh, back to, trying to get back into regular life after a very, very busy weekend. And I hope that you had a beautiful Purim and that you're getting excited for a calm and connected month ahead. So I look forward to connecting with you further. I'll see you next week. Until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.